Hi, I'm Geof Hewitt, a Poetry Out Loud coach for the Vermont Arts Council, which is sponsored by the National Endowment for the Arts. And today, I want to talk to you about selecting a poem for Poetry Out Loud and the beginning stages of rehearsing that poem. Several years ago, I went to a poetry reading by Cora Brooks in Chelsea, Vermont. Cora was a great poet, known widely in Vermont, but not especially famous outside of our state. And she recited her poems for 45 minutes without once looking down at her manuscript. And I was pretty blown away by that. So I went to her afterwards and I said, Cora, how do you manage to memorize 45 minutes worth of poems? And she said, Geof, I don't memorize. I learn by heart. Now, the Poetry Out Loud program wants you to be accurate in your presentation of somebody else's poem. And therefore, memorization is part of the program. But also, if you can imagine learning the poem by heart, it will be there with you no matter what. And for me, that's an essential part of learning a poem. Now, selecting a poem. These are my suggestions. Now, you can take everything with a giant grain of salt, but this is what I think I would do. I would look to the official listing of Poetry Out Loud approved poems, and I'd just read through the titles. Look for titles that suggest a possible interest on your part. Go to those poems and read the first few lines. Read them slowly and thoughtfully. Read them aloud. If you're still interested after 2 or 3 lines of the poem, read all the way through it and consider putting it in a little list of poems that you might actually perform. So you'll find that in about half an hour's time, you may well find 3 or 4 poems that resonate with you and that you feel you can perform adequately. I suggest avoiding poems that are familiar to you, because if they're familiar to you, they probably are well enough known by members of your audience. Look for something new that you can bring to life in a way that it's new for everybody else at the same time. Look for poems that offer some humor. By golly, an audience at a poetry recitation needs an opportunity to let loose a little bit, maybe to chuckle or to laugh. And if you can find poems that have that element of humor in them, I would say so much the better. Remember that in all art, contrast is a significant element of success. What are the moods of the poem? What is the attitudes that are projected by the poem? And how, with your voice, can you contrast those moods, thoughts, and other elements? Envision yourself as the person who actually wrote the poem. Can you embody the poem? Is it learned by heart? Can you bring it forth with attention to those various contrasts? And finally, there's rehearsing to learn, and there's rehearsing to perform. And I want to suggest that To learn a poem by heart, to memorize a poem, you start with the beginning, you say it out loud, and you see how far you can go in your recitation, making direct eye contact with your audience, looking down as you need to, and then up to deliver the lines to your audience. Here's a poem by Irene McKinney. When I rub my thumb and forefinger together, sparks fly up my arm. They are carrying a message to the brain. It reads, "Dear brain, do you remember the time in the tour of the Seneca Caverns?" Okay, I already know that poem, so I can do it directly to the audience. But how about a poem that I don't know and I'm learning to bring it into my memory? Blackberry Eating by Galway Kinnell. Well, I already knew the poem that I was going to recite to you, so I didn't need to look down at my manuscript for that part. Blackberry Eating by Galway Kinnell. I love to go out in late September among the fat, overripe, icy blackberries. Now, can I do that without looking up, looking down? Blackberry Eating by Galway Kinnell. I love to go out in late September among the fat, overripe, icy blackberries. I'm getting there. Probably 3 or 4 more run-throughs of those lines, and I'd be able to give them all without losing eye contact. And slowly, working my way through the poem bit by bit, I can bring it to memorization and learning by heart. I wish you luck and have fun. Most of all, enjoy experimenting and exploring poems out loud.